A discussion that comes up pretty regularly is whether or not the Mercane wide wheel should have brakes on the front. It's pretty clear when you look at the front wheel that it actually is almost exactly the same as the back wheel, just without the brakes. You can see here the same studs that are present on the back wheel for the brakes over there, which you can see here when you look inside the caliper. There are those same studs. They're designed to attach the disc, but the swing arm itself lacks the mounting points that the front swing arm would need, like the back swing arm does. Now, the other thing is that because of the way the wheel turns here, if we put a caliper here, it's going to be under tension, and it's always better to have a caliper under compression, which means that it's going to be better underneath the bottom, which is going to make it kind of susceptible to shocks and such. And then that raises the ugly question of where does the cable run go to, because the caliper is going to hang down about the same amount of distance, which would be to about there. So in some ways it's a little bit impractical to put a caliper on this scoot on the front end, not to mention where are you going to run the cable that it can cope with the fact that the front end moves around like this. So it's a vexing question, and I don't think that there is an easy answer. For myself, the answer is that I accept that this doesn't have a front brake, and while it might be considered to be an important safety aspect for some people, essentially I've always ridden the thing with the viewpoint that I don't expect this brake to fail, and part of my maintenance is based on the knowledge that if it fails, I've got a problem. Now, unlike some people, I don't tend to ride my Mercane unrestricted at high speeds in places where, and notice I said in places where I wouldn't have any way of stopping by some other method, such as going off the road onto the grass, which will slow you down fairly quickly. And when I have done sincere downhills, I've always kept a close, I don't want to say eye, but eye on how the brake feels. Because if you don't, then, you know, you're asking for trouble. So myself, I don't really want to try and force this thing to have a front brake and a back brake. Occasionally I think to myself that it might be interesting to make a regenerative braking system for the front just to give it, you know, something, but diminishing returns, I just don't feel like it's worth it. Anyway, obviously it's an interesting discussion point, and I'll be interested to find out if people have got wheels on the front that don't have these studs to allow the fitment of a disc, but this one does, and all the ones I've ever seen do. I don't know if it's there are some around there that don't. Of course, the single wheel is not going to be able to do this. Okay, well, look forward to any thoughts.